Hi, my name is Matthew, and if you struggle with consistency like I do, the book, The Slight Edge, could be for you. The whole idea of The Slight Edge is if you do something consistently for a long enough period of time, it's how you see results. In this video, I'm going to be going over the 3 main takeaways I got from this book. So let's just jump into it. So, like I was saying, the whole idea of The Slight Edge is doing something repeatedly over a long enough period of time leads to results. So I want to go over my 3 main takeaways of this book. So the first takeaway is that people are in 3 stages of their life. And so these stages can be succeeding, surviving, or failing. These are the 3. And it's represented as a graph. And what the author points out is a lot of people go from failing to surviving for most of their lives. And so you kind of have this rhythm where you are failing, then you survive, and then you bounce kind of back. There's a lot of examples that was used in the book, but I think this can be represented nicely in school. At least for me, that's where it was most relatable to me. Where if you have a 10-week long school program, or like a quarter system, it's 10 weeks, and you have like a midterm on week 5, and then you have a final on week 10. Okay, cool. And so the same idea of this graph can be represented here, where you can be succeeding, surviving, or failing, quite literally in school. And so you might start off here, surviving, you just start the quarter, but you don't maintain good study habits and you kind of fall down here and then on the midterm the day before you cram out. You got to lock in. You got to do what you got to do, and so you get to this midterm and you study a lot to pass the midterm. But after the midterm, you don't keep up with the same study habits and you kind of fall back down, and then eventually the final comes and you repeat the cycle here as well. And so the whole concept to illustrate the consistency over time is if you start off this, let me use a different color. If initially you're surviving, but you maintain consistent study habits throughout the quarter, by the time the midterm rolls around and then eventually the final, you are prepared. If you studied, let's just say 30 minutes a day, you are ready for that midterm and that final. Maybe this has to be a little bit longer depending on the class, but you get the point. Here, it was more like 0 for the first few weeks, and then here, you try to cram a bunch of study time during the midterm and the final. So this is the 3 stages idea in the book, which I resonate a lot with, and I think about this, and I think about it going forward, because I think for me, it's easier to say that you're making some changes and you're seeing some results, but it's easy once you get here to then start falling back down to this path, right? Once you get to the midterm and you pass, it's kind of easy to go back to those old habits. So that's just something I think about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and your ideas. And that's what I also want to call out right now, is these are just my takeaways from the book. If you have different perspectives or different ideas, please be sure to share them. I'm happy to read and see what you guys think of the books as well. Okay, so that's one of the concepts I really liked in the book. So this is concept number 2. And the concept number 2 is pretty simple. And in the book, it's a little bit more in depth, but I really like the quote, so I want to talk about it. So the idea is things that are uncomfortable now become comfortable later, and things that are comfortable now become uncomfortable later. So the graph is represented as, it kind of goes in 2 ways. And now this bottom graph represents the things that are uncomfortable or comfortable first become uncomfortable, and then this graph represents the opposite. And so what is this idea? Well, there's a lot of examples that can be used. I'm going to give you my personal takeaway from what I got from this book. And so what was uncomfortable for me was actually reading, which is funny because we're doing a book review right now. But reading was something I didn't do regularly. I just wouldn't classify myself as a reader. And so the idea of the book, the whole doing something consistently over a long period of time, one of the concepts is to read 10 pages a day of a book. And so initially, this is pretty uncomfortable. I did not read consistently or not much at all before this. At the beginning stages, for example, was more challenging. But as you can do it over time, it becomes easy. Now I read every single day, which I have been since the beginning of the year, and it's gotten so much easier. So now I'm on this track. It's very comfortable for me to read. But if you do the things that are comfortable at first, and there could be a bunch of examples of that, over a long enough period of time, those same things will make you uncomfortable. So that's just something to think about. For me, it was social media habits, right? How much time I spent on social media. I spent too much time on it. So that's something I think about. Now, the third step, which I think is probably the most important step, is this idea of how do you make progress? Now, it's very cool that we have these ideas that are helpful and maybe they're useful to you, but how do you actually see results? So I love this graph. So it's The first thing is you got to study. Now, when you study, this is the things that you do. This is reading. These are learning from books, from watching videos, actively watching videos to understand what you are trying to do. That's the study portion of it. Well, it's great that we're studying, we're learning. We actually have to apply those things. And that's the whole premise of the doing. In the book, it actually had a good quote. It's like, we can't be an armchair expert. That's what we don't want to do. So we actually have to do the thing. Now, a good example is I've been wanting to create videos for a while now, and I've done the whole kind of, it's like phantom progress. You do a lot of studying, you watch a lot of videos, etc., but you're actually not creating the videos. So you want to do the work. And it's great. So you studied, you learned something, and you actually do something. That's the whole premise, right? We read the book. It talks about some concepts such as reading 10 pages a day. Now you actually want to do those things, which is fantastic. If we were just in this cycle, I think you'd make some progress. But one of the key components, and I'm such a big advocate for this, is a mentor or some type of external force to give you feedback, right? So you have this mentor, you've studied the thing, and now you need somebody to give you positive or maybe negative feedback about what you are doing. There's so many different examples I can think about. For example, if you ever coded before or did something like in academics, the whole process, you study or you do it, you do the math, like maybe a math problem or coding problem, and then you get feedback from a TA or a YouTube video or whatever to give you guidance. And then you take that away and then you go back to studying. And I think this is a tried and true way of getting better at things. And so, for example, even this video, you're actually not doing. If I was going to label one of these things, it's actually just studying. This is the study part. Maybe this gives you motivation to pick up this book and read it, but then you have to actually do it and then eventually get the mentor. So I hope this video was helpful for you to understand some of the key concepts of the slight edge. And like I said before, I'm not a reader. And so I hope maybe that resonates with some of you guys that are also not readers. And maybe this inspires you to pick up the slight edge. It's helped me a lot. And I want to continue making these videos and follow the same practice in this book of doing something consistently over a long enough period of time. So each video is going to come out on Sunday for the next foreseeable future, and I'm going to start going over the other books that I've been reading because of Slight Edge. And so those books can include David Allen's Getting Things Done, The 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, Never Split the Difference. There's so many that I'm excited to share. And this is what I love to do. I love reading and telling people what I learned. So hopefully this was helpful to you as it was to me. So thank you so much. If you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe and like and do all that fun stuff. All right, I'll see you later. Goodbye.